Notes 4.7 are on real-world applications of linear equations. I'm going to be showing you part of a video that I made earlier, and it's going to say notes 3.4 on the top. Just ignore that and just follow along with what's going on. It's the exact same problem, the exact same notes, all right?
All right, notes 3.4 are on real-world applications of linear equations. We are going to apply everything that we learned about slope and y-intercept to real-life scenarios. This is probably one of the most applicable things that you will have in your everyday lives. For example, you go to buy a cell phone contract, and once you buy into the contract, you have to pay a certain amount of money every month. That would be your y-intercept. And then extra money per extra call you make or per extra text message you send, unless of course you have like an unlimited plan. Anyways, question number 1, a swimming pool when full holds a certain amount of water. When the drain is open, the amount of water in the pool drains out at a constant rate. The graph shows the amount of water, W gallons, in the pool H hours after the drain is opened. Question A, find the vertical intercept of the graph and explain what information it gives about the situation. Now, you haven't seen the word vertical intercept before, but it's nothing new to you. We normally just call it the y-intercept. Vertical and y are basically the same thing in this example. So look at your graph and find out what is the y-intercept. Well, it's 648,000, okay? But what's the unit? Gallons, all right? So the answer to this is 648,000 gallons, but what does it tell you about the situation? Remember, your y-intercept is always your initial amount. So the pool initially had 648,000 gallons of water in it. Okay. All right. Now question B, find the slope of the graph and explain what information it gives about the situation. Now remember, when you find slope, you can just do rise over run if it's just given to you as a graph. You don't have to do any extra work. So I can use this as my starting point and I can use this as my ending point. So how much was the rise? How much was the run? Well, the rise, a lot of people will look at this and will say it's -2, but please be really careful to look at your units. It's not -2, it went from 648,000 to 548,000. So the slope, or the rise, went down by 100,000. So we'll say it's a -100,000, okay? And then the run, a lot of people, be careful, will say it's 1, 2, 3, 4. But it's really not 4. It went from 0 to 50, so it's -100,000 gallons in 50 hours. You are required to label your units for slope when you are solving a real-world problem, because it's crucial that you understand what the slope even means, okay? So then when you divide it all out, you'll end up getting -2,000 gallons per hour. Well, what does that mean? It means the pool is emptying at a rate of 2,000 gallons per hour. Now, notice how I did not say -2,000 gallons per hour, because emptying implies the negative. Now, I know it doesn't ask for the equation of the line, but I'm going to write it down anyway so you can understand what this is saying. So the equation of the line would end up being y equals -2,000x plus 648,000. Okay, and you should be able to look at an equation and be able to understand that information from the equation, that the initial amount of water in the pool was 648,000 and that it's draining at a rate of -2,000 gallons per hour. All right, so let's take a look at question number 2. Jeanette rents a bike while visiting a city. She pays $7 per hour to rent the bike. She also pays $8 to rent a baby seat for the bike. She pays this amount for the baby seat no matter how many hours she rents the bike. The graph shows her total cost C after H hours. Find the vertical intercept of the graph and explain what information it gives about the situation. Well, hopefully you can recognize that the vertical intercept here is $8, and what it represents is the initial amount, which is the amount that she needs to rent the baby seat, okay? So she initially spends $8 to rent a baby seat. Okay, and then question B, find the slope of the graph and explain what information it gives about the situation. So, same thing, I'm going to do the rise over the run. I'm going to choose a point where I know exactly what the starting amount is and exactly what the ending amount is. So I'm going to go up this much and over this much. Okay, so the rise would be from 8 to 64, which means it went up by 56, okay? And then the run was from 0 to 8, so it went over by 8. So your answer right here is 7, oh, sorry, we have to label our units. So $56, and this is 8 hours. So our answer is $7 per hour, okay? So this means that she pays a rate of $7 per hour. Now, to be honest, you don't even need to see this graph to answer these questions because all of the information is in the initial setup of the problem. I want to go back to number 1 because there's one thing about number 1 that I forgot to tell you guys with the slope. So notice how I use this is my starting point and this is my ending point. I want to show you what happens if I use a different starting and ending point. So let's say that I used this is my starting point and this is my ending point, okay? So then when you do this right here, here's my slope triangle. So you're going to figure out your rise and your run, all right? And hopefully you can figure that out. Oops, sorry. So how much did it go down by? Well, it went from 548,000 to 248,000, so it went down by negative 300,000. All right, and then how much did it go over by? It went from 50 hours to 200 hours, so it was 150 hours. So if I were to do the slope here, I would get negative 300,000 gallons, right, over 150 hours, which still divides out to give you negative 2,000 gallons per hour. So I just want to make sure you guys still understand that the slope is always the same. It's constant. That's what's required in order for a function or an equation or a graph or any type of linear situation to be linear. Okay?
All right, question number 3 says that Anne and Kayla want to join the YMCA. There's a joining fee plus they need to make monthly payments. After 4 months, so let's underline our key information. There's a joining fee and they need to make monthly payments. After 4 months, Anne pays a total of $228. After 6 months, Kayla pays a total of $298. So question A says to write an equation for the cost of joining the YMCA using N for the number of months and C for the final cost. Well, in order to be able to do this, we need to first of all decide what our variables are. So there are 2 things that you don't know in this problem, or there are 2 different things that are changing in this problem. Our 2 things that are changing are the number of months, all right, and the cost, the total cost. Now the question is which one depends on which? The number of months you need to know before you can find out the total cost because the total cost depends on how long you actually go to the Y for. So we're going to say that the number of months is your independent variable, so that's X, which means that the total cost is your dependent variable, it's your Y. So we're going to write out our information for Anne as a coordinate. So Anne's information is 4 months, so this is your X, for a total of $228, this is your Y. So you're going to say 4, comma, 228, okay? And then for Kayla went for 6 months, that's your X, for a total of $298, that's your Y. So 6, comma, 298, All right, so those are your two pieces of information. Now, in order to find an equation, you need y equals mx plus b, which means you need to figure out what the slope, what the rate is, and you also need to find out what the y-intercept is, okay? So to find the slope, that's easy, we just use the slope formula. So let's go ahead and do that. So to find the slope formula, I'm going to do, so step one, find the slope. M equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So in this problem right here, 298 is your y2 minus 228 is your y1, all over 6 minus 4. Well, 298 minus 228 is 70, 6 minus 4 is 2, but this is $70 for 2 months, which means that your slope or your rate of change is $35 per month, because all you have to do is divide 70 by 2. Okay, now that you've done that, we need to figure out the actual equation of your line. To do that, you would use y equals mx plus b, and then you can use 35 for the slope. So y equals 35x plus b. Now, you need to plug in any coordinate you want. It's up to you. I'm going to plug in this coordinate right here, 4, 228. Remember, 4 is x, 228 is y. So every time I see a y, I'm going to replace it with 228, and every time I see an x, I'm going to replace it with 4. So 228 equals 35 times 4 plus b, okay? Well, 228 equals 35 times 4, this turns into 140. Subtract 140 from both sides. So then this ends up being 88 right here. So your slope is $35 a month, right? And remember, your slope has to be written out as a rate, and your y-intercept is $88. But the question is, what does that stand for? Well, that stands for how much you start off with, which is your joining fee. So you start with $88 just to join the gym. It's your initial amount, all right? Now, the question though says to find it using n for the number of months, and c is the final cost. So here, the number of months we said was x, but it's really n. And here, the total cost is y, but it's really c according to what it tells you. So normally, we would write out the equation as y equals 35x plus 88. However, instead of y, we're going to use c. And instead of x, we're going to use n. So c equals 35n plus 88. Now we have to understand, what does this even mean? This means that the cost is $35 per every n, so per every month, plus an initial fee of $88, okay? So then question B says, find the total cost of joining the y for 12 months. So we're going to use our equation. C equals 35n plus 88. Well, what the number of months is the n variable, which we figured out earlier. Then every time I see an n, I'm going to replace it with this number, which is 12. I'm going to substitute it in. So C equals 35 times 12 plus 88. Well, what is 35 times 12? Let's figure this out. So if I have 35 times 12, your answer for that would end up being, let me just type it in, 420. So C equals 420 plus 88. So if you were to join the gym for 12 months, you'd pay $508. Okay? Make sure that you let me know if you have any questions about anything that you watched. All right, question number 4. All the employees of a garden center are given a 40-cent per hour raise each year. You make $7.15 per hour after 3 years as an employee. Write a linear equation that models your salary per hour, S, in terms of the number of years, N, you have worked at the garden center. Okay? And then we'll do the next part in a minute. So it says write a linear equation, which means that we need to write y equals mx plus b. But we have to define what our variables are. Well, we have the number of years, and we have your salary. Okay? So we'll write down number of years, and we have salary. Well, the number of years is going to be our independent variable because how long you work there will decide how much money you make. So your salary depends on the number of years that you have. So if you make $7.15 per hour after 3 years as an employee, that's because you worked there for 3 years. So the number of years is your independent variable. This is x. Your dependent variable then is your y. Now we need two things. We need our slope, which is our rate of change, and we need our y-intercept, which is our initial amount. So don't forget, this is our rate, and this is our initial amount. Okay, so our rate is given to us in the problem. Sometimes it tells us, sometimes it doesn't. But if you look right here, it says all the employees of a garden center are given a 40-cent per hour raise each year. So every year you get 40 extra cents. So what we're going to say is that our rate is 40 cents per year, because every year, again, you get a raise of 40 cents. So we would say y equals 0.40x plus b, because the slope is 0.40. Now the b is your initial amount. How much did you make when you were first hired? Well, in order to figure that out, we need some more information. We know that after 3 years, you make $7.15 per hour. So I can plug that information into my equation right here by plugging it in for y and x. So y is your salary, right? So your salary is $7.15. And then the number of years is your x. So in this problem, it's 3 years. So I'm going to say times 3. So I'm going to replace the 3 right inside of here, okay? And then I'm going to solve for b. Well, in order to solve for b, I have to multiply 0.4 by 3. So if I were to multiply 0.4 by 3, I would end up getting $7.50 equals $1.20 plus b. Now, in order to get the b by itself, I would subtract $1.20. So then you would get $5.95 equals b. So that's how much you made when you first started working there. So your initial amount is $5.95. Okay, so then your equation would have to be, you know your slope, it's 40 cents per year, 0.04x plus 5.95. Okay, and then once you do that, you have to make sure that you use the right variables. So S is your salary, N is the number of years. So in this example right here, your salary was your Y, we figured that out, and your number of years is your N. So instead of Y, you're going to replace this with S, and instead of X, you're going to use N plus 595. Okay, and then the next part of your question says find your hourly salary after 6 years. So I want to figure out what it's going to be. What is the salary going to be after 6 years? Well, N stands for years. So I would just plug in 6 for N. So I would get S equals $2.40. I'm just multiplying 0.4 times 6 plus 595. Add those all together and your answer would be $8.35 if you work there for 6 years. Okay, obviously this question is very outdated because nobody would ever be paid $5.95 to begin with, but hopefully you understand how to do this type of a problem.